The Tales of Ba Sing Se has been justly acclaimed as one of the best episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, largely because of the Uncle Iroh section, in which Iroh spends the day helping random people throughout the city before finally lamenting that he could not help his son. Especially today, which the episode reveals to be his son's birthday. This sequence is devastating, and I do not want to fault Avatar: The Last Airbender fans for fixating so heavily on it, but even as we do so, we should not forget that the rest of this episode is still extremely good. After the psychological thriller that was last episode, 214, The City of Walls and Secrets, Episode 215 functions as a sort of slowdown. There's no grand objective, no villains to defeat. It's just our protagonists going about their day. They adjust to life in the city because, as Uncle Iroh says to Zuko, life happens wherever you are, whether you make it or not. Which, of course, makes one think of a famous John Lennon quote, "Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans." Aside from the Aang sequence, which is cute but forgettable, every other sequence in the episode is at least good, and many of them are great. I love Toph and Katara bonding. I love Sokka's haiku misadventures. I love Momo searching in vain for Appa, setting up the harrowing Appa's Lost Days, episode 216. But most of all, I love Zuko's date with Jin. It marks the perfect balance of poignancy, self-reflection, and genuine sweetness. There is uncertainty, but there is hope, too. When Zuko notices a girl who has come to the tea shop every day, he becomes uneasy, and he tells Uncle about her. He wonders whether this girl knows that they are Fire Nation. Of course, when he admits his suspicions to his uncle laughs. Of course, she's not a spy. She has a crush on him. This shocks Zuko. He's too busy contemplating the growing divide between the person he has been, the person he told himself he should be, and the more questioning, more empathetic person he is becoming to think about love and romance. Though he thinks of May romantically, that is different. They were childhood friends. The idea that someone could be attracted to his scarred, existentially confused self has never occurred to him. When she asks him on a date, he stares blankly at her, but Iroh accepts for him. He knows this would be good for Zuko. Instead of remaining committed to his monomaniacal quest to capture the Avatar, Zuko can take a breath. He can take a moment to enjoy himself, and the life he and his uncle have made in the city. The date starts awkwardly, because Zuko has no idea how to interact with her. He is too busy trying to stop her from discovering his secrets. When he asks why he's been traveling, he says that he's in a circus, perhaps thinking of Ty Lee. Curious, she asks what he does in the circus, and he says that he juggles, so of course she asks him to demonstrate, and he can't, so that all falls apart. He ends up looking like a fool. Zuko is not used to having a good time. That doesn't sound like something you have to be an expert at, but that whole ethos is so averse to Zuko's entire life. The only two people we know who treated him with genuine and consistent kindness as a child are his mother, Ursa, and his uncle, Iroh. Azula terrorized him, while Ozai, their father, did not disguise his disappointment and contempt toward Zuko. It doesn't help that his parents raised him in a palace milieu rife with intrigue and exploitation and scheming. And that is before his father burned his face and exiled him to spend the rest of his life chasing the Avatar. And that's all he wanted. All he wanted was to return and impress his father. So chasing the Avatar becomes his entire early adolescence. This is not a person who is used to being happy, but you can clearly tell he is, and this surprises him. Even though he embarrasses himself, Jin still offers to take him to her favorite spot in the city. When the lanterns are lit, their light glows on the water, and the effect is magical. But the lanterns aren't lit. Thus far, this date has been a disaster. Zuko could have taken this as an opportunity to leave her and wallow in the disaster that is his attempts to connect with others, but he doesn't. He likes her, he genuinely likes her, and he wants to pay her back for how kind and open and generous she has been to him. She wants this to go well, so he helps her. After asking her to close her eyes, he lights all the lanterns. This casts the entire lake in dreamlike, ethereal light. I must emphasize the extent to which this is a sacrifice for Zuko. This is only an episode after Jet accused him and his uncle of being firebenders. Zuko cut off his hair at the start of Season 2, and with it, he has distanced himself from his signature identity, even though that identity, that of the banished prince, doomed to chase the Avatar, as he later describes it, was his sole method of defining himself throughout Season 1. The one and only time he revealed the truth about himself was in episode 207, Zuko Alone, and when he did that, the people rejected him. When Song, who also demonstrated affection and tenderness toward him, attempted to touch his scar, he wouldn't let her, as he believes the scar defines him and he wants to preserve the secret of his identity. But he sacrifices that secrecy for the benefit of Jin, and she is amazed. Does she know he's Zuko? Probably not. Does she know he's a firebender? Maybe. There's no other realistic way he could have lit all those lanterns. She knows that, but she chooses not to ask. She decides that the best approach is to not ask any questions. Instead, she kisses Zuko. I doubt he has been kissed before. Sure, May might have kissed him when they were kids, but that's not really the same thing. Jin says that what he did was so sweet. The date has gone well. If he wanted, he could have a lasting relationship with her. But he chooses not to. A romantic relationship is the last thing he wants or needs right now. His soul is in crisis, and he knows it. He's changing, and he's not sure what he is changing into. Gaining perspective on his old life, he questions whether he actually wants to return to that old life. Still, as he has said, he does not want to make a life in Ba Sing Se, and he wants more from life than a job serving tea. Even though he is a markedly different person from the desperate teenager he was in Season 1, he remains committed to the dream he once held. He cannot quite break away from that. And as such, he's not sure who he is. So no, he can't enter into a romantic relationship with Jin. He's not ready for that yet. It would not be fair to either of them, and sadly, he cannot tell her why without revealing the secret that would compromise him. So he leaves, and she doesn't know why. He slams the door on his uncle when his uncle asks him how the date went. But that's not quite the end of the episode. Opening the door a crack, he admits that, yeah, he had a nice night. It's this last moment that really makes the sequence special for me. Yes, it's tragic that he cannot open up, because his entire life at this point is a whirlwind of angst and turmoil, and he doesn't know who he is anymore. He doesn't know what his life is. But that does not mean his entire life, his entire everyday existence, needs to be nothing but gloom and depression. He has seen the eye of the storm, and it's soothing. There is beauty and light even amidst the crisis. That does not mean the storm is ending, but it does mean that wonder and truth are still possible amidst the storm. This segment strikes the perfect balance between despondency and relief, even though he intellectually and even emotionally knows that he should not have a relationship right now. The date was nice, it was comforting, and he is willing to admit that. Aside from the Iroh and Momo sections, nothing in this episode is strictly necessary to understanding these characters and how they function in this narrative. But that does not mean these other sections are not worthwhile. Though the Zuko section is not quite the best one, it is the one that best demonstrates why I love this episode. It's poignant, but it's still light and joyful. For once, Zuko can let down his burdens and enjoy himself, if only for a slight moment. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. I know this probably will not be my most popular video, but I really relished the opportunity to talk about a scene that's gone a little under-discussed in the community. Anyway, keep watching Avatar. It's a brilliant, empathetic, tender show, and I'm so glad it's finally getting the attention it deserves. Tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.